want to start with Overcompensating. Obviously, you're working with Benito Skinner, who created the show, and Scott King is the showrunner. But can you tell us, like, at what point did you become involved? How did you become involved? And what were the conversations, the casting conversations with Benito and maybe Scott?
Yeah. It was like sort of, I think they had just gotten the green light from Amazon, and I got very lucky in my life to do so many A24 films. And, you know, I knew Allie, who was like the main producer at A24, who was now, I met her on Euphoria. She was the assistant to Ravi, and then now she's like a producer on her own. And so, you know, truly, any relationship you ever make, it's amazing how they continue on in ways that you never know. So she was like, you know, would you ever consider a comedy? And I was like, I would love to laugh. I would love to laugh. You know, my first big film was Precious, and The Wrestler, and it's been like, you know, 44 movies at Sundance, and tend to, you know, I love things that are real, and, you know, that's sort of like the projects I gravitated towards and I think I'm talented at, but comedy is like a bit of a mystery, and I just knew I would just be able to be entertained most of the time. So anyway, she brought me up, and I met Benny for the first time, and I was like, I don't know if I'm cool enough. Like, I'm like, he's like, we want like maybe Omar Apollo, and I'm like, I'm like, no idea who that is, and now I'm like, maybe you want Omar Apollo. And but I think the reason why I was hired was because I just, you know, I told him that like I see people, but I really see them, and I want them to have a respectful experience, and you know, there's got to be like some love and heart and joy in this, and like that's what I see in you, Benny, yourself. And I feel like in that moment crossover, I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to get this show that I'm really not right for. And so then I met Scott after. He wasn't on that meeting, but I loved him too. I was like ready. I was like more ready. I was like Omar Apollo. And he's like, everybody loves you. I don't need, you know, a pitch or whatever. And he's like, I just needed to get a sense, and that was it. And then most of the casting conversations were about tone, because there's so many, you know, things that it can be confusing, and I wanted to try to make it less confusing for actors that were auditioning, which is like, people think A24, it's way more real, gritty, you know, documentary style. Amazon may be like, you know, this is like the big comedy. Benny's comedy's bigger, but it's A24. And so like, I'm like, what do you guys want? And, you know, what most people say is like they want it to feel real to people. Everybody can sense when something is like not really happening to somebody or it's fake, but they also need to have, you know, some spark that like brings it out so you can like actually see what's happening in the scene and not too small. So I didn't really know. But we just, I read there was like 6,000 per role submitted. I had like no life. I developed a tic actually. Yeah. I started pulling my neck, because I was like this all the time. Like, I have to just get through this, you know, I'm behind the pages and more breakdown pages. And because I do actually look at everything, I will feel like a failure if I don't, or like I skimped, or, you know, like, how dare I have this opportunity. I can't, you know, some Catholic guilt stuff, but so yeah. And was endless in the beginning of all the possibilities, and that just took a long time to finally get to a place where like I could maybe, because then after all the people you pick, you have to watch all of the videos, which I watch all of them, and so it was intensive. I was like, I've done major shows, 2 shows, 3 shows at the same time. For some reason, it was like right after the strike, and everybody was hungry and nothing was shooting, and I've just never been attacked like that before in my life. So I'm like, so yeah.
I hope this tick has gone away. You bring up so many things that I want to follow up on. I'm going to try and follow up in the order in which you mentioned these things. Okay. So first of all, I think talking about tone, I'm wondering, because of course they say they want it to be real, and it is a comedy, and somehow it does feel large, and it feels real, and it feels like the tone is just like, it's a consistent thing throughout. Like it knows from the beginning. It isn't, even though the show develops so beautifully throughout the series, the tone is consistent. So given what you've just explained to us, how do you, especially because it's a pilot, how do you help the actors, and maybe it's later in the process with people who've gotten further along the line, how do you help the actors capture tone?
I think I have to really understand it myself. And that wasn't very natural, actually. Benny knew always right away. I think it was from him. And so every session or any tape that I sent, and I would like really like somebody or think that like that's what the show was, and he wouldn't gravitate towards it at all. And I'm like, I don't know yet. And it just really took some time to figure it out. But it's also so hard to teach. You can't teach somebody to be funny or interesting. You can help them. I honestly think it's way easier to teach drama than comedy, because you can kind of figure out a way into somebody's heart and be like, what would it feel like if, this was happening, or like, let this, moment, weigh in and then move. But like comedy, it's like when Holmes comes in, I could not create that if I tried, But so I think just over time, just watching who he was gravitating towards and being like, I think I got it. I think I have it. Because I worked with Wally a lot, the female lead, many times over, because she wasn't she was a writer on the show. And as they were writing, they were like, she looks just like it. Like it's her. But it takes time. It's not like acting is not something you can just sign up and do,
So I want to use Wally as an example, right? As we go through like her process for what it might have looked like for other people too. I think she's fascinating for people who don't know. Wally was a writer on Shrinking and What We Do on the Shadows before Overcompensating. And then I think she got her SAG card on this show, like literally had not acted before. So talk to us. I think she had 4 auditions. So what did the first one look like? What did you ask her to do, and what did it look like?
We did a lot of talking that didn't translate. And it was like, I know it's there. How will I ever complete this in 20 minutes? Maybe that, like if I show that first, or, and then like it was sent and they're like, I guess it's not Wally each time. But, I have to say, because I have like a bit of, even though Euphoria and all the things that have had like street casting in my life, I get a little, annoyed by not using actors. I'm like not into street casting. I'm sure this is being filmed. Anyway, so I get a little bit like, okay, like let's do like the friend of the director, like, but I loved her. Like, I just love her. I'm a very good acting teacher, actually, but I couldn't figure it out in 20 minutes. So I was like, I think this is probably the best it's going to be. And sent it along, and they were like, oh, I guess it's not, going to happen. And then it's like, it's going along. And like, I'm like, how out of 6,000 people and like, I don't know how many tapes from that I watched, but I'm like, how is there nobody for this part? Like, where this pilots always happen like that. It's like all of a sudden there's nobody, and you wind up with like Mickey Rourke, and you're like, how did we get here? Anyway, I just was so confused, and because it was so specific in how you build a best friend, before. And so it was nagging at me. It was nagging at Benny. It's like, what can we do to bring this out? Because we just have a sense it's there, but, not like so strong when I like get a sense. Anyway, so yeah, then there was another round. And they also, because they were so close and it was kind of awkward and they were still in the room, they didn't want to like audition her and then like not bring it up or something, like she's like, am I the part? So, and then, we were feeling really good by like round 3, and then it wasn't enough. There's certain things that like, can't just like learn this stuff in a day. And then by like round 4, we brought in a DP to make it like, feel like a real, so that they could, really imagine the show a bit more. And at that point, it started to like blossom and flow. And what's always actually happened, like on Euphoria, like a lot of those kids, like chemistry reads were like not good compared to like real actors. But then through the process of like having the part and being there and being with these people and feeling the support and, getting comfortable, I feel like, which is weird that I said this to her at the opening party. I was like, you've blossomed. And like, she looked like a flower blossoming. And I was like, I don't know if that's weird. Anyway, that's sort of the story.
She's a beautiful Carmen. I can't imagine anyone else in that role.
And I guess that was the thing. I hate to think that because it's like, I don't allow myself to think that because people fall out or something happens. And then if I believe that, then I'm like, well, now I have blah, So I tend to try to think of like, and have been successful in like casting up from the person that is like left. I'm like, well, they didn't want to do it, but I got Sarah Snook, so you just got snooked, Anyway.
So going back to some other stuff, I just feel like all of this cast, Adam DeMarco, I guess, had a lot of credits before he came to the show, but almost everybody else had very little. And so I'm just wondering, when are people, and it's such a huge hit, are people coming to you? I thought it was interesting. Like, is Jessica Kelly typecast? Are they coming to you to find the teens? Yeah. And so
I did 3 in a row. Yeah. I miss adults.
And then you talk about, 6,000 submissions for one role is mind-boggling. So that must give you, I imagine, a savvy idea of very quickly what stands out as good. Can you share some of your thoughts on that with us?
Yeah, the 6,000 submissions are the pictures. So I didn't watch 6,000 videos, although maybe ultimately with all of the parts, all the series regulars. And I love when the studio's making my deal and they're like, it's just like five new teens. And I'm like, you haven't met me. Like you know, I'm relentless in me looking. I think there is so much fine. There's so much okay that you start to be like, okay, I think. And then, if there's a deadline and you just have to be guided by like, I love that person. I love that person. Like, I want to see more of that person. And it's hard when you're navigating tone. Like, I kind of wanted to be like, is this what you mean? Is this what you like this? Like, I gave it a little bit onto them to like help me because it wasn't such a natural thing that I cast. But I know, like, weird people and thinkers and heart people and eyes that glisten, faces I want to look at. So that's, kind of when I'm doing a search, I like the beginning to be kind of open. I'm all about the potential. Like somebody once said to like the head of A24, like, we love Jess. She always gives everyone a chance. And I was like, does that mean I don't have taste? I'm not sure what that means, but in some way, I like to keep it open as I figure it out as I go along. Because I just enjoy the expression. I always have.
And then I wonder with young people who are auditioning for this show, I mean, there's no way for you to know whether or not you're looking at the 25th take when you get that self-tape, or the 45th, or the 5th, right? So how do you get, when people come to the next stage, I'm assuming that the next stage before the chemical read is some kind of play where you can see how they take notes and how they respond and what they might be like on set if they don't have a lot of experience. So what are you looking for in those interactions?
I'm not very good at my job, I have to say. So I don't do all that prep work. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, they like that person. Okay, they're calling back with Benny. Like, let's just like get to it. Or like, I don't look at resumes. And sometimes they're like, oh, what have they done? And I'm like, oh, it didn't even cross my mind to look. It's just like, I guess I don't plan, I don't have the time enough during that kind of thing to like do a lot of like prep or planning or like getting the person ready. On another one, this one for Hulu that I did right after. And also when you start to learn the studios and like what they respond to in tapes, like that kind of stuff I will work on the side. Like, let's get, I think you should wear like something with flowers or like, like some instinct that I have that will like they think it's too edgy and dark. So we'll just like, the simple things that would be so obvious and easy to fix on a set should not be the detriment of why a person doesn't get the part. So if I can figure out a way of just, kind of physically helping a person who doesn't read people like I do, for them to understand. Like, I have a, very small-minded, large family. And so I just think of like, what if they saw it, would they get it? And that's like what guides me.
I feel like we, as actors, probably want your cheat sheet in what different studios might be. Is there a cheat sheet that actors could have to know that this studio likes this? And
I think the sort of overall thing that I've learned is casting and directors and the inner people are better at the potential because they've seen everything. They've seen so many tapes. They know, they fall in love. They have the workshops with people, like, and in that setting, I think you have to come on like it's you. And now I'm on set, and this is, what I'm doing. At the same time, never stop listening. Like, it's you. This is like your part. but you have to be movable and breathing and living whatever's happening while that's happening. And that's actually fun, if you remember when acting is fun. Like, that's the opportunity to have empathy and experience a person, a character. You could say a character, but I see it as a person.
And I love that I know as you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together, I think Holmes has said that she read for Carmen. So it's a classic story, if you can share it with us, of like, you're not right for this, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, because Haley was like written very like classic, you know, kind of it girl. And, you know, she's just like a comic genius, like true. I've never seen a mind work that fast. I don't even know what that is. That's like it's other level fast. And I'm really slow, so I'm like so impressed. Every time she would slip something in out of fucking nowhere, like with like a half blink of an eye, and it was always good and it was always funny. And I think just because she's fast, she wasn't Carmen, just energetically. We would like really would have to like restrain her for Carmen, like, and breathe and think and breathe and observe. And she's like, yeah. So I think that was just an energetic and such a lucky ad because that could have been a fine part. It's like, again, like I see the okay, I see the fine, like that works. There's a lot of things that work. And then you see the like, wow.
Great. I'm wondering, so improv, like you talked about how she was like throwing stuff in, and obviously here, sometimes you get the sense that, particularly with television and comedy, writers are very sensitive about being word perfect, but it seems like here they were open to improv.
Yes and no. You know, you just have to be really good at it. Yeah. I think they're open to it if it's seamless and actually like not about you like thinking you're funny. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So the show was shot in LA, woohoo, and Toronto. And so can you give us an idea how you collaborated with the casting director in Toronto and what came out of LA?
Yeah, I think a lot. I mean, all of the leads were from me. It's this funny thing that kind of happens when like we always start first, like the US casting, and they get really like attached to you. And then it's like really hard for them to like move on to and they're like, well, I just still want to look for this one role like in the States. Like, and I'm like, you have no budget. Like, you have to let me go. Or like, let's just fill this show with 1,200 cameos, which is a nightmare. Anyway, especially on a new show. So I would say the bulk of it, even though Lisa was there the whole time, like taping people, you know, I think it's just they get excited. There's a lot of friends, people they know, like people they've been watching. It's just we're more aware of like the Hollywood system we share with the world. Like we have the biggest stars. So I think people just know about actors here than in Canada. But that's going to change because a lot's shooting there. Marry a Canadian.
We're so happy that you're here with us today, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.